the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Basically, since DeAndre Swift left, and with the improved passing game, I think that makes it even less of a priority, if you will.
There you go. Matt Green, should we go to Tennessee next?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Good old Rocky Top.
Have you heard about this? Have you seen this? Tennessee Volunteers. Do you want me to go first, or would you like to give me?
Hey, lead us off, man.
9.5. Here's the thing, and I was texting some Tennessee buddies about this week, and the common sentiment around Vols Twitter and just Vol fans, anyone you talk to, is 10-2, 9-3. Most would love 10-2, and they take it to the bank. That's what they went in the last year in the regular season, 11-2 total. Very clean. It's a very, very clean year if they go 10-2 or 9-3 and win the bowl game. That's just kind of repetition, right? Like if they do that, then they kind of picked up where they left off. Milton just picked up where Hooker left off, and he's good most weeks. And he had a stinker, maybe there 1 or 2 max, and that was it. And he was efficient and great and a lot of fun everywhere else. Here's where I don't see. Here's why I should say I don't see that happening. I think one of 2 things happens to Tennessee this year. And I've been sitting on this all summer, Matt Green. There's a reason that Joe Milton finished number 1 in ESPN's biggest college football playoff wild card from Bill Connolly. Just the ultimate wild card mercurial figure here in Knoxville, Tennessee. You read the quotes from coaches in that ESPN piece this week about all the different SEC or coaches, what they think of all the new quarterbacks and everything else. It was one SEC defensive coordinator saw him. He was like, I hope we're not playing this guy. We saw him warming up and we're like, I hope we don't see him. And then I listened to Will West, sports radio host here in Knoxville on Sports Source last week. Something he said stood out to me that I jotted down, where he said when Heupel first got to Tennessee, the reason that Hooker did not start right away and that they went with Joe Milton was because they just thought Joe Milton's just raw talent could get them to 9-3. Hooker had a better mastery of the game, of the playbook and everything else, but the upside of Joe immediately was oh no, if Joe is even close to what he is capable of, then we're walking in 9-3. And when you have that kind of issue with scholarships and talent and everything else, you try it out. And it didn't work out. Got injured, lost his job. Hendon Hooker took over, took it and ran with it. All that's done. All that being said, the idea that this Joe Milton season goes just as smoothly and efficiently as what Hendon Hooker has done over the last year and a half here in Knoxville, I don't see that. There are 2 ways this season goes. If Joe Milton is healthy, if Joe Milton is not. If Joe Milton makes quick decisions in the pocket, or if Joe Milton does not. One of the things I see people who are not familiar with Tennessee football, they ask about, they're like, oh, it's his accuracy. He's got a deep ball, but what about the accuracy? No one's worried about Joe Milton and his accuracy. He threw 10 touchdowns, no picks. Nobody throws picks in the Heupel offense. Heupel doesn't do it. Go back through year over year. He just doesn't do it. You won't play. It's just go back through all of his quarterbacks. They don't throw picks. I'm not worried about his accuracy. You shouldn't be either. What happens is if he has 5 3-and-outs like he did in the Orange Bowl, if he's a statue in the pocket like he was in the Orange Bowl, where he takes bad sacks and you're looking at 3rd and long and the defense has to be back out in the field because of the tempo, and Joe does not keep the offense humming. Does he respond the way Hendon Hooker did after the fumble in the Alabama game, where most quarterbacks probably would have wilted, on that failed RPO where Dallas Turner picks it up and runs in the end zone to put Alabama up late in the 4th? A lot of quarterbacks crumble in that situation. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks go, look, that was our moment. We blew it. That was so dumb. And then they're in their own head and they just can't bounce back. Hendon Hooker
2021 Stetson vibes.
But that's what I'm saying. Not everybody's built like that. Most quarterbacks aren't. And Hendon Hooker was fine, and it just erased it and moved on, was nope, I'm just going to go score in the next position. And he did. I don't know if Milton's built for that.
I'm just going to throw another touchdown at Jalen Hyatt.
Yeah, that's what, he was a machine. That was the best way to describe Hendon Hooker, was he was a machine who just wiped his brain after every possession, every touchdown, was all right, when am I going to go do the next one? I don't know if Milton's built like that. I don't know if Milton's durable to make it through 12 games. We haven't seen that to this point. if he takes those sacks. The offensive line is going to be worse this year. Darnell Wright is gone. The thing that helps Tennessee is this scheme really lends itself to average to below average line play, because if you have a tempo and the defense is out, like, you can kind of live with it. If you're just doing the Vanderbilt offense with the offensive line Tennessee had, they're in trouble. Like, Milton and everything else would be a problem. I don't see it being a problem. They're going to run the ball better. Jalen Wright, I think, is going to have a gigantic year and actually be maybe the best running back in the SEC East this year. It wouldn't surprise me if he is just an absolute monster. Brew McCoy, Squirrel White, Dante Thornton, who has a lot of Jameson Williams vibes. If he can stay on the field too, he's a big what if he stays in the field. All that being said, Matt Graham, I say this to say, Tennessee's either going 11-1 and making the playoff this year, or they're going 7-5, 8-4. I don't think there's a middle ground here. The Joe Milton experience either is he's going top 5 in the NFL draft, and this is one of those electric, just bomb, like all-time great college football stories. Guy who's benched twice, makes it all work in his final college football season, stays healthy, and just has the season of a lifetime. Or he gets injured, or he gets shook in the swamp early, loses that game, and then the bottom falls out, and we see Nico by South Carolina or something, and then this season's just more of a growing pains type year, and you just get to a bowl game and you live to fight another day next year with a super talented blue chip roster. Those are the two choices. Those are the two avenues. So when people are picking everywhere, 10-3, 9-2, they're thinking Hendon Hooker. They're thinking what we've seen the last 2 years, the machine, the efficiency, just the high floor. I think this is more of a banger bust type year that maybe the last one we'll see over the next during the Heupel tenure here, but I think this is the last topsy-turvy year for me here in Knoxville, and I go back and forth on it. I've gone back and forth on it all summer, but that's what I've landed on. Is I would be floored if they go 9-3 and 10-2 and it's that clean. Either they have the all-time great season and they make it 11-1 and Joe's a Heisman finalist, or they have a season from hell and they're looking at 7-5, 8-4. That's what do you make of that?
See, I don't necessarily think it has to be just all or nothing. I think you look at this. I mean, this schedule is not easy, but I think to go back to what you're saying about Hendon Hooker, I do think that's kind of the most like overlooked aspect of all of this. Like, yeah, maybe Heupel's system is just so great that it doesn't matter who you plug into this, you're gonna get elite production. But like, you're kind of dismissing everything Hendon Hooker did at that point then, like, and how good he was for Tennessee. Because, and you referenced it, like, is Joe Milton a statue? Like, not only did Hendon, like, we're talking Stetson Bennett making those plays off schedule. Hendon Hooker is a lot of designed runs for Hendon Hooker. Like, that's a big part of the offense. A guy who had, 400, 500 yards rushing last year. So, yeah. That kind of changes the dynamic of what the quarterback brings to the table. He's obviously got this big arm and everything, and that's cool. But oh man, I just get such Anthony Richardson vibes, dude. Like it feels like we're doing the same thing again. Like a guy who's just completely unproven. We're like, check out these tools, man. Like this is incredible. It's like, yeah, it's cool. He can throw the ball 100 yards apparently. Like, but it's playing quarterback is so much more than that. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, these guys didn't have cannons. Like they had fine arm strength, right? But it's about accuracy. It's about so many things, and obviously Heupel's system is a very quarterback friendly offense. I don't doubt that this offense will be good. I don't think necessarily Joe Milton is a Heisman finalist or he's getting benched by week 6. You know, I think there's just, you look at this schedule. And like we were talking with Georgia going at Auburn, that's going to be Carson Beck's second SEC start, but first road start of his career. Joe Milton's first SEC start period of his new tenure. I guess he has started an SEC game before. I know he at least started versus Pittsburgh. He may not have started an SEC game back in 2021.
He started against Vanderbilt last year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So he still hasn't started versus an SEC team. So he's got at Florida week 3, and it's just like Florida's schedule is brutal, but nobody goes winless, right? When they have all these big games, like you beat somebody, and obviously Tennessee hasn't won in Gainesville since 2003. Been what both schools had like five coaches or something since then. It's not really relevant, but it is still a fact, and it hasn't happened. So going on the road at Florida is just a really tough first test of the season. You could argue it's a manageable one because Florida isn't a juggernaut right now, or they're preseason projected to maybe miss a bowl game by a lot of people. So it might be the perfect kind of ease yourself into a hostile environment versus maybe not the best team, not a team that's championship ready by any means. But Texas A&M you have from the West, and you have at Alabama. Like, I think that, does anybody play Alabama and LSU this year? Like, I think that's probably the toughest two games anyone from the East has versus the West this season. And then obviously preseason.
I don't know who it is. Someone does have Alabama and LSU. I don't remember. Is it Arkansas? Who is it? A&M maybe?
Well, obviously a bunch of West teams. I'm saying from the SEC East.
Oh, that's what I meant.
Having that as their crossover.
That's a good question. I thought it was somebody in the East too.
But yeah, we can look at that. But yeah, just with Alabama and A&M from the West, maybe that Florida game being tricky, and obviously like Tennessee scored a bunch of points on Kentucky and Missouri the last couple of years, and obviously South Carolina beat them a year ago, and that's going to be a huge game. But I think with just Alabama, and A&M, I don't think they win. I probably wouldn't say they win any of those games, but like I said, everyone wins one, so who knows which one of those they're able to get. But yeah, this feels like a 8-4 worst case scenario to me because it is Heupel's offense. So like maybe Joe Milton isn't the guy, and Nico comes in, and because you look at that for like you can get some wins in there, but while you figure out the offense. So I tend to think they're still going to be probably the second best team in the SEC. I lean towards probably a 9-3, but I wouldn't be surprised by 8-4. I'd say I'd be surprised by a 7-5, and I'd definitely be surprised by a 11-1, 10-2.
So what are you going with? Are you hitting the over?
I'm hitting the under on Tennessee. I feel like if I had to guess, like put a gun to my head, it's either an 8 or 9 win team, and they were 9.5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what did you say? Have you said yet? Did I miss it? 9.5. Put it on the board.
I'm going 11-1. I think they.
There it is.
I think they go 11-1. Matt Green.
Who's the one?
I think it's Georgia. That's it.
So in that, yours. Oh man, I don't want to spoil next week's show. You're gonna say 11-1, making the playoff or something like this.
Yes, I am.
Oh wow. Joe Milton, is Joe Milton win the Heisman?
No.
I thought that's what you're saying. It's like if they're boom or bust, it's either Joe Milton as a first round pick, whatever, or is it Anthony Richardson first round pick?
Well, the thing about Anthony Richardson too was like Anthony Richardson in Heupel's offense last year would have been stupid. Like with the raw talent that he had. If like that was the one thing when people compare the two.
I mean, this guy's not accurate.
Who?
Anthony Richardson.
Well, no, what I'm saying is like I don't know what he would have looked like in Heupel's scheme or if he'd sat in Heupel's room for 3 years. Like it was a convoluted mess for Anthony Richardson down the stretch, and that offense last year was a mess. So I don't know. The thing with the Anthony Richardson comps, I'm like, here's the difference. Heupel, like there's a different track record with Heupel and what that offensive room looked like for Anthony Richardson last year. Like it's not going to look like that. Anyone who's expecting Milton to look like Anthony Richardson last year, just you're going to be disappointed.
He's obviously not the athlete Anthony Richardson is, so it's going to be completely different style. But in terms of just
the efficiency, like they're not going to struggle to move the ball. Like they're going to put up points. They are not going to be number one. I would be surprised if they're number one in scoring again. I think they'll be somewhere in the top 5, but I don't think they'll be number one. But I do think 11-1. I'm going to go that way. I'm going to go positive 11-1. Just with a loss to Georgia. Maybe a loss to Bama. They split that one, and that's it.
Get Bama 2 years in a row? Oh, man. That's bold.
If this Bama team can score enough, we'll see. We'll see if Bama can score enough to beat Tennessee this go around with Tommy Rees. Speaking of Bama, let's move to the Crimson Tide here. Matt Green, they're over under 10.5, the second highest in the SEC. What say you about the controversial Crimson Tide, where Is that Jalen Milrose music? Is he starting? Is it now Jalen's show? What is happening in this QB room and this QB competition? I have no idea what to do with Alabama.
Jalen Milroe sounds like the guy at Alabama, and that's alarming to me. I think the most overrated storyline I think of this offseason, for one, is Nick Saban smiling at press conferences.
Thank you for saying that.
He knows how good his team is because he's smiling at press conferences. Okay, cool. We have no idea what was said. Who knows what happened?
Or he's just getting old and he's not taking it as seriously anymore. Like, maybe that's just it.
It's not as miserable as he once was. So that for one. But this idea that, they don't have the wide receivers and the elite quarterback play. They're just going to go back to being what the A.J. McCarron era. Like, we're just going to pound the rock and play elite defense and win games 13-10. It's like, if they could be holding opponents to 10 points right now, they would be doing it. Like, the most critical part of playing that style is you have an elite defense, and they haven't had that. Like, Kevin Steele has been a really good defensive coordinator in his time in college football, but he's a first-year defensive coordinator. Like, he's going into a room with just about as much talent as most teams in the country, but Alabama hasn't been like this elite of elite team defense.
Well done, nephew. Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.